Who really assassinated Martin Luther King Jr.? It's a question that has echoed through American history, echoing down the corridors of time since that fateful day on April 4th, 1968. The official narrative points to a man named James Earl Ray, a petty criminal with a rap sheet as long as the Mississippi. He was quickly arrested, tried, and sentenced for the crime. But is it that simple? You see, throughout the years, doubts have been cast on this narrative. Unanswered questions, inconsistencies, and strange coincidences have given rise to a myriad of conspiracy theories, each one more tantalizing than the last. The death of Martin Luther King Jr. was more than just a tragic event. It was a pivotal moment in American history, one that left an indelible mark on the nation's consciousness. So, if it wasn't James Earl Ray, who was it? The answer to that question may be more complex than you think. Stay tuned as we delve deeper into the mystery. The official narrative points to a lone gunman, James Earl Ray. James Earl Ray, a small-time criminal with a rap sheet spanning several states, suddenly sprang to infamy on April 4th, 1968. Evidence collected at the scene. A bundle dropped near the Canapés Amusement Company included a rifle with Ray's fingerprints, binoculars, and articles of clothing. This bundle acted as a breadcrumb trail leading directly to Ray. But here's where things start getting murky. Ray was apprehended at London's Heathrow Airport 2 months after the assassination, attempting to fly to Brussels under a false name. Upon his arrest, he confessed to the crime. Case closed, right? Well, not quite. Ray's confessions were as inconsistent as they were numerous. He confessed, then recanted, then confessed again, each time with a different story. Some might argue this is typical behavior for a guilty man trying to escape the hangman's noose. But in Ray's case, the lack of a clear motive throws a huge question mark over the official narrative. According to the prosecution, Ray was a racist who despised King and wanted him dead. But Ray's prison records and the testimonies of those who knew him paint a different picture. He was a criminal, yes, but not a racist. He had no known affiliations with racist groups, no history of racial violence. So why would he kill one of the most influential civil rights leaders of the time? Moreover, Ray was not a professional assassin. He had a history of bungling his criminal endeavors. So how did this small-time crook pull off one of the most high-profile assassinations in American history and manage to evade capture for 2 whole months? These inconsistencies, coupled with Ray's later claims that he was set up by a man named Raoul, have led many to question the official narrative. Could it be that James Earl Ray was not the mastermind behind King's assassination, but merely a pawn in a larger, more sinister game? But if Ray was just a pawn, who were the real players? Some believe the U.S. government played a role in the assassination. The theory that the U.S. government had a hand in the death of Martin Luther King Jr. is not a new one, but it is a theory that has gained traction over the years. Let's delve into the depths of this theory. Some theorists argue that the FBI, led by its then-director J. Edgar Hoover, was involved in King's assassination. It's no secret that Hoover had a deep-seated animosity towards King. The FBI had tried to discredit him in the past and even sent him an anonymous letter suggesting he commit suicide. Then there's the CIA. Some say that the agency saw King as a threat to national security because of his opposition to the Vietnam War. They argue that the CIA had both the motive and the means to orchestrate such a plot. There's also the argument that other government agencies were involved. The military, for instance, is said to have seen King as a threat to the authority of the state and a potential catalyst for social unrest. But perhaps the most compelling piece of this theory is the civil lawsuit filed by King's family against the U.S. government in 1999. In a shocking turn of events, the jury sided with the King family, finding that there was a conspiracy involving government agencies in King's death. So, what does this all mean? Are we to believe that the very government that King sought to influence through peaceful protest was involved in his death? That the agencies tasked with upholding law and order were the ones who orchestrated one of the most shocking political assassinations of the 20th century? The evidence is certainly intriguing, and the court verdict in favor of the King family adds a layer of credibility to these theories. Yet, as always, definitive proof remains elusive. We are left with the question, could the government really be behind King's death? As we continue to seek the truth, we must remember that sometimes reality can be stranger than fiction. Others point to the Mafia as the real culprits. This is where the plot thickens, and the web of conspiracy theories surrounding the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. takes a dramatic turn. The Mafia, a clandestine organization infamous for its ruthless operations, becomes a key player in this narrative. There are theories that suggest the Mafia's involvement in the assassination, possibly in collusion with government agencies. It's a chilling thought, isn't it? The Mafia, an entity known for its criminal activities, potentially working hand in hand with the very institutions meant to uphold law and order. But how does James Earl Ray, the man convicted for King's assassination, fit into this scheme? Well, there are those who believe that Ray was not a lone wolf, but a pawn in a much larger game. Reports indicate that Ray had connections to known organized crime figures, which adds a layer of intrigue to the story. For instance, it's on record that Ray had met with Frank Liberto, a notorious mob boss in Memphis, not long before the assassination. Liberto was overheard by an informant saying he had King killed. Could this be a mere coincidence, or was there a more sinister plot at play? Furthermore, there's the question of how Ray, a small-time criminal, could have financed his movements across the country and overseas after the assassination without significant backing. Could the Mafia have been the source of these funds? Then there's the allegation that the FBI under J. Edgar Hoover had strong ties with the Mafia. Could these connections have facilitated a collaborative effort to silence King, who was seen as a threat to the status quo? These are all questions that lie at the heart of this theory. They paint a picture of a convoluted conspiracy that extends far beyond the lone gunman. And while concrete proof remains elusive, the connections and coincidences are too significant to be dismissed outright. Could the Mafia have had the power to orchestrate such a high-profile assassination? The answer to that question may forever remain shrouded in mystery, but it's a question worth asking. Some even suggest the military-industrial complex had a hand in King's assassination. Now let's delve into the theories implicating the military-industrial complex. This was a term first coined by President Eisenhower in 1961. It refers to the intertwined relationship between the military, the government, and industrial manufacturers, all of whom profit from war. King was a vocal critic of the Vietnam War. He saw it as an unjust conflict that disproportionately affected African American soldiers and drained resources from domestic programs aimed at alleviating poverty. His opposition was not just a moral stance, but a political one, challenging the very foundations of the military-industrial complex. So, was this enough to make him a target? Some theorists say yes. They argue that King's growing influence and his ability to mobilize masses against the war posed a significant threat to those profiting from the conflict. On the day of King's assassination, there were suspicious movements of military personnel in Memphis. Eyewitnesses reported seeing men who appeared to be soldiers near the Lorraine Motel. Some have even suggested that these men were part of an elite sniper team. However, no concrete evidence has been found to substantiate these claims, and the military has always categorically denied any involvement. But it's not just about the day of the assassination. It's also about the broader context. King's assassination happened at a time of heightened tension and conflict, both at home and abroad. His death sent shockwaves through the nation, creating an environment of fear and confusion, conditions that, some argue, benefited the military-industrial complex. These theories, though intriguing, remain unproven. They are part of a larger narrative that questions the official version of events, suggesting that King's assassination was not the act of a lone gunman, but a calculated political move. Could King's anti-war stance have led to his death? It's a question that continues to intrigue and provoke thought, even more than half a century after his untimely death. Despite the many theories, the truth remains elusive. We've explored the lone gunman theory, suggesting that James Earl Ray acted entirely on his own. But the complexities of the case have led us to contemplate the possibility of a government conspiracy, with accusations of FBI involvement and cover-ups. The Mafia connection theory, tracing back to King's stance against organized crime, has also been a subject of our discussion. And let's not forget the military-industrial complex theory, highlighting King's opposition to the Vietnam War as a potential motive for his assassination. Each theory has its own compelling arguments and unanswered questions. They symbolize our relentless pursuit of the truth. It's an ongoing journey filled with controversy and a constant quest for justice. We encourage you to continue researching, questioning, and seeking the truth. The story of Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination is far from over. In the end, the question persists: who really killed Martin Luther King Jr.? Join us in our journey as we visit, touch, and share in the abundance and beauty of African American history and culture. Stay tuned and don't forget to subscribe to Our Season Never Ends as we continue to unveil the stories that have shaped our world. Remember, the past is a guide to our future,